The morning sun spilled through the half-open blinds of a small white house at the edge of Charleston. A dog barked from somewhere down the road. Children played near a fire hydrant. Everything looked peaceful. But inside the house on Cypress Lane, rage slept beneath calm skin. Thomas Tommy Grayson sat at the edge of his bed, staring at a dusty picture frame. The photo inside showed him, his wife Melinda, and their daughter Lily, all smiles at Myrtle Beach 5 years ago. Life had been beautiful then, before jail, before betrayal. Tommy had just been released after serving 5 years for a crime he didn't commit: armed robbery. The case had shocked the town back then. Tommy, a hard-working father and car mechanic, had been found guilty based on a tip from an anonymous caller. Evidence had been circumstantial, but the courts didn't care. A ski mask in the back of his truck, gunpowder traces on his jacket, and missing money from a convenience store were enough to send him away. Only one person knew the truth: his younger brother, Kenny. Kenny had always been wild, a gambler, a talker, a liar. But blood is blood, so Tommy kept quiet when he found out the truth behind bars. A fellow inmate who used to run with Kenny had slipped one day. "Your brother's the one who did that hit," he had said. "He bragged about it, said you were too stupid to know he used your truck." Tommy had kept that rage buried deep for 5 years. He looked up at the sound of a horn outside. It was his friend and old coworker, Ray. Tommy grabbed his duffel bag and walked out. "You ready to get back to the shop?" Ray asked as Tommy climbed into the dusty blue truck. "Yeah, got bills to pay, people to see," Tommy said quietly. Ray gave him a look. "You see her yet?" Tommy didn't answer. He didn't have to. Everyone in town knew what happened after his arrest. Melinda waited for 2 years, then stopped visiting. Lily, just 6 when he was sentenced, hadn't sent a single letter. Tommy had assumed Melinda moved on. He never imagined she'd move on with Kenny. It was in the newspaper 3 weeks before his release. "Local contractor Kenny Grayson marries longtime sweetheart." The photo showed Kenny in a tux, standing next to Melinda, holding Lily's hand. They didn't even change her last name. That night, Tommy sat alone in his room above Ray's garage, eating cold chicken and watching the wedding photo over and over on his phone. He didn't cry. He planned. 2 months later, Detective Warren Beck of the Charleston Police Department sat at his desk, sipping bitter coffee when the call came in. "Family massacre on Cypress Lane." Warren grabbed his coat, heart already racing. Cypress Lane had always been a quiet street. By 7:45 a.m., he stood at the scene. Blood everywhere. No signs of forced entry, no valuables taken. It wasn't a robbery. This was personal. Back at headquarters, Warren opened a file marked Thomas Grayson, released July 2023. A chill moved through him: motive, opportunity, and a deep betrayal that could drive any man to madness. But Warren Beck didn't believe in simple endings. He believed in digging until the real truth screamed from the dirt. And something about this case was off. Too perfect, too staged, too easy. And sometimes the truth was far uglier than even murder. Detective Warren Beck stood in the evidence room, flipping through the preliminary reports. 3 bodies. No signs of forced entry, no fingerprints except the victims. Officer Dana Miles read aloud as she stood beside him. "What about the weapon?" Warren asked. "A kitchen knife. Belongs to the house. We found Kenny's blood on the handle, but no other prints. It's clean. Too clean." Warren nodded. "So the killer wiped it. Looks like it. But we also found something strange in the daughter's room. A stuffed bear with a recorder in it. Voice activated." Warren looked up. "Anything on it?" Dana plugged the device into a small speaker and played the audio. It was a child's voice. "Lily. Mommy told me not to tell anyone that Uncle Kenny sleeps in her room when Daddy's gone. I think Daddy will be mad. I miss Daddy." The recording stopped. Silence filled the room. Warren sighed. Poor kid. She knew something was wrong, and now she's dead. He rubbed his temples and leaned back. "Get me Tommy Grayson. I want him in my office before noon." Tommy stood under the hood of a '97 Ford Ranger, hands covered in oil, when 2 squad cars pulled up outside. Ray stepped out of the office with wide eyes. "They're here for you, man." Tommy didn't run. He didn't even flinch. He wiped his hands, calmly took off his gloves, and walked over as Detective Beck stepped forward. Tommy Grayson? That's me. You need to come with us. We have some questions about your brother. Tommy nodded. Kenny's finally in trouble, huh? Warren met his eyes. Number? He's dead. Tommy's face didn't change. Not an inch. Not a twitch. What about Melinda? Tommy asked. She's gone too. So is your daughter. This time Tommy closed his eyes. He leaned slightly to one side like a man who had just been punched in the stomach, but he didn't speak. He raised his hand slowly. All right, let's go talk. Tommy sat on one side of the table, a bottle of water in front of him. Warren took the other seat. Dana stood near the door, arms folded. Where were you last night? Warren asked. Home, above Ray's garage. Ask him. We did. He said you were there around 9 p.m., but you left for about 3 hours. Came back around midnight. Tommy shrugged. I went for a drive. Where? Nowhere. Warren slid a folder across the table. Inside were crime scene photos. Blood, bodies, a broken lamp. Tommy didn't look away. You think I did this? Tommy said. You think I killed my own daughter? You served 5 years for something your brother did, Warren replied. You got out and found him married to your wife. You had motive. Tommy leaned forward, voice flat. You ever been caged for 5 years, detective? You ever sleep listening to other men cry or scream or get stabbed? You ever wonder why your wife stopped calling, stopped visiting? Then you find out your brother was sleeping with her before you even got locked up? He sat back. Yeah, I was angry. But I didn't kill them. Warren's eyes narrowed. Then help me understand why Lily's teddy bear recorded a conversation that sounds a lot like a motive. Tommy raised an eyebrow. What conversation? Warren played the clip again. Tommy listened silently. His hand trembled. Just slightly. She thought I was a monster, he whispered. Warren leaned in. Tell me what happened that night. Tommy looked up. His face hardened. I didn't go to the house. I wanted to. God knows I did. But I sat in my truck outside for an hour. I saw the lights on. I saw Lily's window. I couldn't do it. I drove off. Do you have proof? Warren asked. Number just my word. Warren stood. Well, until we have more, your word isn't enough. As the door closed behind him, Warren frowned. Something didn't sit right. If Tommy had killed them out of rage, why not run? Why walk into the station so calmly? He walked down the hall to Dana. Something's off, he said. Yeah, and it gets stranger. We got surveillance from a liquor store 4 blocks from Kenny's house, about 10:17 p.m. Shows a figure in a hoodie buying a bottle of whiskey, face covered, but look at the limp. She pointed to the footage. Warren watched. The man limped heavily on his right leg. Tommy doesn't limp, Warren muttered. Exactly. Warren walked back into his office and pulled up the old court case. He flipped through the evidence, photos, and witness statements. Then something hit him, the ski mask in the back of Tommy's truck. What if that evidence had been planted? He scanned the files. Kenny had been the first to arrive at the scene of the original robbery. He gave the statement. He called the police. Warren's stomach turned. This whole thing might have started 5 years ago. A plan, a setup, a betrayal that drove a man to the edge. But what if Tommy didn't fall? Warren picked up the phone. Get me everything on Kenny Grayson's phone records, emails, financials. I want to know what he did, who he talked to, and where he went for the last 6 months. Check for any life insurance policies, too. Got it. Warren stared out the window. If Tommy didn't kill them, then who did and why? Detective Warren Beck arrived at the office with a half-eaten donut and a racing mind. He hadn't slept well. The Grayson case had too many layers, motive, rage, betrayal, and yet something didn't feel right. He stepped into the briefing room. Dana was already there with a stack of printouts. Morning, boss. I pulled the phone records, financials, and emails like you asked. Warren took the stack, scanning quickly. Tell me something good. Dana pointed at a page. Kenny Grayson took out a $500,000 life insurance policy 6 months ago. Beneficiary? Melinda. Warren raised an eyebrow. Policy activated after his wedding? Exactly 2 weeks after. And get this, Melinda increased her credit card spending by almost 80% since then. Jewelry, spa packages, designer clothes. They were living like they had money to burn. Warren frowned. That's strange for a man who just built a new house and barely had steady work. Dana nodded. There's more. Kenny's phone records show multiple late-night calls to a burner phone. Same number every time. We traced that burner to a convenience store a few blocks from his construction site. Guess who bought it? She tossed down a photo. Surveillance footage. Warren stared at the image. Warren walked into the visitor room. Tommy sat at the metal table. Pale, tired, but still calm. I need to ask you a few more questions, Warren said. Tommy shrugged. I'm not going anywhere. Warren sat across from him. Tell me about Kenny and Melinda. Before the wedding, did you know they were seeing each other while you were locked up? Tommy looked down. I suspected. First year, she came to visit twice a month. Second year, only on birthdays. Third year, nothing. When I saw that wedding picture, it all made sense. Did Kenny have money problems? Tommy snorted. Kenny always had money problems. Owed people all over town. That's why I never believed I was the one who robbed that store. He needed the money. I didn't. Warren leaned forward. Did he owe anyone dangerous? Tommy paused. Yeah. There was this guy, Marcus Bellamy, ran a loan shark operation out of the east side. Kenny owed him at least $20,000. Warren's pen stopped moving. Is Marcus still around? I don't know. But last I heard, if you don't pay him, you disappear. Warren and Dana pulled up outside an old garage covered in graffiti. A pit bull barked from behind a chain-link fence. Loud music thumped from inside. They found Marcus leaning over an engine, wiping grease off his hands. Detective Beck, he greeted coolly. What brings the badge to my place? Warren got straight to the point. Kenny Grayson, did he owe you money? Marcus's smile faded. Grayson was a liar. He came to me last year begging for a loan. Said he had a plan. Big job. Promised quick returns. Never paid back a dime. What kind of plan? Marcus shrugged. Didn't say, but he talked like he was going to get rid of some weight in his life. Said something about getting rich off a family connection. Did he threaten anyone? Dana asked. Marcus gave her a look. I didn't ask questions, but I know this. He was scared the last time I saw him. Jumped at every sound. Warren exchanged a glance with Dana. You ever meet his wife? Marcus laughed. Melinda. She came to my shop once. Dropped off an envelope. Told me it was a peace offering. Had $5,000 in it. Still short. Warren jotted that down. And when was the last time you saw Kenny? 3 days before he died. A call from forensics interrupted everything. Detective Beck, we finished analyzing Melinda's personal laptop. Found something interesting. Warren met the tech, a young guy named Greg, in the lab. There's an encrypted folder. Took us a while, but we cracked it. Emails, voice memos, even a digital diary. Seems like Melinda kept track of her plans. He handed Warren a tablet. One entry stood out. Kenny says once the policy kicks in, we're free. No more debt. No more hiding. Tommy can rot in jail and never know what we've done. But I'm scared. He's getting out in July. Kenny says we'll move to Florida after it's all done. Another, July 29th, 2023. Tommy is out. Kenny promised he wouldn't come near us, but I saw him outside the house yesterday. He just sat there staring at Lily's window. I don't know if he knows. I'm scared. And then one more marked September 2nd, 2 days before the murders. Kenny met with someone last night. I don't know who. I saw him slip out and come back with blood on his sleeve. He said it was handled. I think he did something terrible. I can't sleep. Warren handed the tablet back, face tight. If this was true, Kenny had enemies. Melinda had secrets. And Tommy might just be the scapegoat once again. Warren paced his office. The facts were painting a new picture. Kenny planned the robbery 5 years ago. He framed Tommy and married Melinda. He owed money to a dangerous man. He took out a life insurance policy, and now he was dead. Melinda was scared and knew something was wrong. Tommy's story checked out. No blood, no prints, no motive left. Warren picked up the phone and made a call. I want that teddy bear tested again. This time check for voice tampering or other audio overlays. I also want street cam footage from every direction around Cypress Lane between 9 p.m. and midnight. His gut whispered that this murder wasn't about revenge. It was about money, about fear, and maybe, just maybe, Tommy wasn't the only one who had been betrayed. Detective Warren Beck stood inside the evidence room with latex gloves on, staring at the small beige teddy bear that had been collected from Lily's bed. It had survived the massacre. It didn't seem important until now. "You're sure you heard something?" he asked the forensic tech, Greg. Greg nodded. "Yeah, when I picked it up to bag it, I heard a click inside like a tiny mechanical shift. That's not normal for a stuffed animal unless it has some kind of recorder." They set up a soundproof lab and carefully dissected the toy. Inside the bear's belly was a small voice recorder, cleverly concealed and modified to turn on with pressure, like a child's hug. The forensic team connected it to an audio system and pressed play. The first few seconds were quiet. Then, "You lied to me, Kenny. You lied and married her. You left me in that cell for 5 years." Another voice, defensive and angry. "I had no choice, Tommy. You always got away with everything. This time was mine." A woman crying, "Stop! Don't fight! Please!" Gunshots, 3 of them, then silence. Greg stopped the recording. Warren's face darkened. "Tommy said he didn't go upstairs, but this is clearly him confronting Kenny and Melinda." Dana, who just entered, asked, "So he did it?" Warren shook his head. This was a confrontation, yes, but notice the voices. There were only 2 shots fired in the house, not 3, and the forensics said all 4 victims died within minutes of each other, but only 1 gun was found." Dana blinked. "So where's the 3rd bullet? Or was there another weapon?" Warren and Dana returned to the blood-stained home. It was quiet now, the crime scene tape fluttering in the breeze. They entered the house slowly. Warren paused at the living room couch where Kenny had been shot. A dark patch on the floor marked where Melinda fell. But upstairs, the children's room, it was too clean. Warren turned to the wall behind Lily's bed. There was a faint dent in the drywall. He pulled out a small flashlight and shone it on the surface. There, barely visible, a bullet hole. "Dana," he said urgently, "get forensics. I think we've just found the missing shot." The recovered bullet was lodged deep into the insulation. After 2 hours of extraction, analysis confirmed, different caliber. "It's not from the murder weapon," the tech reported. "The others were .38 special rounds. This one's a 9mm. Warren leaned in. "So 2 guns were fired that night." Dana added, "Meaning 2 shooters? Or a second person who finished what the first started?" Warren faced Tommy again, this time with more intensity. "Tommy, did you confront Kenny the night of the murders?" Tommy clenched his fists. "I already told you. Yes, I was there. But I didn't kill them. Did you have a gun?" "Number." "Then whose was it?" Tommy looked up, voice low. "Kenny had one. He always kept a gun in the drawer next to the couch. I grabbed it when he lunged at me. We struggled. I fired once, into the floor. He dropped it. Then I ran." "You're sure it only went off once?" "I swear I didn't shoot anyone. I was just scared." Warren believed him, especially now, because the autopsy confirmed that Melinda and the kids were shot execution style. Not in a struggle, not in panic, but coldly. Street cams finally arrived. Warren, Dana, and the tech team poured over footage from Cypress Lane. 10:05 p.m., a black SUV parked 2 houses away from the Graysons. 10:07 p.m., Tommy's sedan pulls up. He walks toward the house. 10:28 p.m., Tommy runs back to his car and speeds off. 10:35 p.m., the SUV's headlights turn on. 10:36 p.m., a woman steps out of the SUV, alone. She walks toward the Grayson home. 10:58 p.m., the woman exits. She's running, gets into the SUV and speeds away. Warren paused the footage and zoomed in on the woman's face. She was in a hoodie, but as she turned slightly toward the camera, her face came into view. just for a moment. Warren's eyes narrowed. Dana, is that Julia? Dana blinked. The neighbor? Warren nodded slowly. Julia Denvers, the Graysons' next-door neighbor. Melinda's best friend. Widowed, lived alone. She was at the wake. She cried at the press conference. Holy shit, Dana whispered. Warren stood on her front porch. He knocked. A pause. Then Julia opened the door, still wearing grief like a second skin. Detective Beck, she said softly. You're working late. Can I come in? She hesitated but opened the door. I just have a few more questions about the night of the murder, Warren said. She sat across from him, hands folded tightly. You were home that night? Yes. I heard nothing. Slept through it. Warren stared her down. We have surveillance footage showing you at the Grayson house after Tommy left. Care to explain? Julia's face turned pale. She trembled. I was worried. I saw Tommy storm in. I thought he might hurt them. I went over to check. Why didn't you tell us earlier? I panicked. Did you go inside? She nodded slowly. Did you see the bodies? Julia nodded again, tears forming. Warren leaned forward. Julia, you were in love with Kenny, weren't you? She broke. Yes, I was in love with him, ever since high school, and then he married her. Melinda never appreciated him. She mocked him, pushed him, and when I found out they were planning to move away, I lost it. Her voice cracked. I didn't mean to kill the kids. I just wanted her gone. But Lily woke up. Then Daniel. I had to. Warren stood up. Julia Denvers, you are under arrest for the murders of Melinda Lilly and Daniel Grayson. Julia Denvers sat with her hands cuffed to the steel table. Her eyes were red-rimmed, not from crying, but exhaustion. The mask of a grieving friend was gone. Now all that remained was a woman exposed, fragile, cornered, and dangerous. Detective Warren Beck watched her through the two-way mirror. Dana stood beside him, flipping through a new forensic report. Warren, the lab confirms it. The 9mm rounds that killed Melinda and the kids matched the handgun we recovered from Julia's crawlspace. It was wiped, but we pulled a partial print. Hers. Warren exhaled. And the motive? Dana flipped the folder shut. Obsession, jealousy, and betrayal. They entered the room. Julia, Warren began, sitting across from her. We've confirmed that your gun killed Melinda, Lily, and Daniel. The third bullet went into the wall of Lily's bedroom. All of it leads back to you. Julia said nothing. Warren continued. Tommy was innocent. He left before they were murdered. You followed him in. You ended them. A tear rolled down Julia's cheek, but she didn't wipe it. I loved Kenny, she whispered. I really did. Dana sat beside Warren. So why did you kill him too? Julia blinked. I didn't. Warren tilted his head. Excuse me? She leaned forward, whispering. When I got there, Kenny was already dying. Warren couldn't shake Julia's words. She's lying, Dana said firmly. It's just a new tactic to throw us off. Warren wasn't sure. She was precise with the kids and Melinda. But Kenny's shot? It was messy. The angle was off. The bullet shattered his rib and exited out his back. Not her style. Dana raised an eyebrow. You're saying there might have been a third person? Warren opened a file. No. I'm saying someone might have followed Tommy in. He pulled out the autopsy report again. Kenny's wound trajectory was at a downward angle, as if someone taller or standing above had fired. Julia was 5 feet 4 inches. Kenny was 5 feet 10 inches. The angle didn't match her. Warren tapped the report. There's someone we haven't considered yet. Dana frowned. Who? Warren opened a file titled Michael Grayson. Michael Grayson, Kenny and Tommy's estranged cousin, stood by the graves. He was the black sheep of the family. Former Marine, dismissed for insubordination, ran a gun shop in North Charleston. Warren and Dana approached slowly. Bart, you always visit graves of people you hated? Warren asked. Michael turned. His face was hard, unreadable. I didn't hate them. Dana crossed her arms. Your discharge records say you were obsessed with family honor, that you had outbursts when people in your family shamed the name. Michael scoffed. You think I killed my cousin and his wife because of some honor code? Warren didn't blink. We found your boot print at the scene, near the back fence. Only one set. Size 12 military-grade combat boot. Just like the pair you wore in court 6 years ago when you testified at Tommy's trial. Michael's jaw twitched. Warren continued. You hated Kenny for marrying Melinda, said he wasn't man enough to handle the family name, and you hated Tommy for taking the fall. Michael stepped forward. I didn't kill the kids, that's not a denial, Dana said sharply. Silence. Then he sighed. I only wanted to scare Kenny, teach him a lesson. I didn't know Julia would show up. I was hiding behind the fence, heard Tommy yelling inside. I slipped in when he left. Kenny pulled the gun on me. We struggled. It went off. You shot him? Warren asked. Michael nodded. He collapsed. Julia came in 10 minutes later. I was already gone. Did you know she'd kill the rest? Dana pressed. No, he said quietly, but I didn't stop her either. Warren turned to Dana. Get a warrant. We just confirmed Julia didn't act alone. Detective Beck sat with all the pieces finally on the board. Tommy went in first, confronted Kenny, fired a warning shot, left. Michael followed, fought Kenny, shot him, fled. Julia arrived, found Kenny dying. In a jealous rage, she murdered Melinda and the children. Each murder carried its own intent, its own motivation. But they all intersected at one point: betrayal. Warren wrote the final line in the report: 4 victims, 3 suspects, 1 night. A family broken by love, lies, and legacy. He closed the file, but the weight of it lingered. The courtroom was packed. News vans lined the streets outside. The case had captured national attention. The Denver's family massacre, they called it. Inside, spectators whispered, reporters scribbled, and the gallery watched as the accused sat behind bulletproof glass. Julia Denvers, cold, expressionless, her long hair pulled into a severe bun, her orange jumpsuit neat, almost polished. Across the room sat Michael Grayson, eyes sunken, hands folded. Though charged with manslaughter for Kenny's death, he looked more like a forgotten man than a killer. Tommy Denvers was there too, sitting beside Detective Warren Beck as a witness. He wore a gray suit, borrowed, still adjusting to freedom after years behind bars for a crime he didn't commit. The judge, Honorable Claire Summers, took her seat and banged the gavel. Court is now in a session for the trial of the state versus Julia Denvers and Michael Grayson. District Attorney Jessica Monroe stood before the jury. Her tone was calm, but her words sharp. Ladies and gentlemen, this is not a story about a robbery gone wrong. This is not a tragic accident. This is a tale of calculated revenge. A woman so consumed by jealousy and hatred murdered 3 innocent people, including 2 children. But she didn't act alone. This web of death was spun long before the trigger was pulled. We will show you exactly how justice was betrayed and how we can now restore it. She paused. You'll hear of love triangles, family betrayal, a brother sent to prison for a crime he didn't commit, and a cousin who saw himself as judge, jury, and executioner. She let the silence linger. By the end of this trial, the truth will no longer be buried beneath lies. Julia's attorney, Mark Finley, leaned on sympathy. My client is not a monster. She's a woman whose life collapsed in one moment. She walked in and found her husband bleeding to death, shot by someone else. In that moment, overwhelmed, confused, she reacted. Was it wrong? Yes. But was it cold-blooded murder? Number, she snapped. Temporary insanity, triggered by years of manipulation and betrayal. Michael's lawyer, Eric Booth, took a harder stance. My client tried to stop a toxic man from continuing to destroy his own family. The shot that killed Kenny Denvers was an accident, a scuffle, a moment of chaos. Michael didn't even know children were present. He ran because he panicked, not because he planned murder. Tommy Denvers took the stand first. He recounted everything: the years in prison, the lies Kenny told, the betrayal of watching his own brother marry Melinda, and his decision to confront Kenny that night. I only wanted answers. I didn't take a weapon inside. I just wanted him to admit the truth. "Why did you leave so suddenly?" asked the prosecutor. Tommy looked down. "I heard my daughter scream in the background. It broke me. I ran." He glanced at Julia. "I never thought she'd do what she did." Forensics expert Dr. Lisa Patel showed diagrams of bullet trajectories, gunpowder patterns, and DNA matches. The shot that killed Kenny Denvers came from a downward angle, inconsistent with Julia Denvers' height. However, the rounds that killed Melinda and the children were consistent with her known firearm. The courtroom was silent. When Julia finally took the stand, the room tensed. "I didn't go there to kill anyone," she began. "I went to protect Kenny. I thought Tommy would hurt him." She described arriving to find Kenny shot. There was blood everywhere. He looked up at me, barely breathing. I begged him to hold on. Her voice cracked. Then I saw Melinda, standing in the hallway holding Lily's hand. She looked scared. I snapped. Everything hit me at once, the lies, the years, the affair, the betrayal. I, I didn't know what I was doing. "Why the children?" the prosecutor asked coldly. Julia's voice faltered. "I don't know. I wasn't thinking." A wave of disgust rippled through the gallery. Michael sat stiffly as he addressed the court. "Kenny was everything wrong with our family. A snake. I didn't mean to kill him. I wanted to scare him. You brought a loaded weapon to a confrontation. That doesn't sound like you were trying to scare him." "I was a soldier. I carry, always. It wasn't planned. It just happened." The judge frowned. "Did you know Julia would follow?" "No." "Did you see her kill the rest?" "Number, I was gone by then. But I knew she was coming. I should have warned someone." Prosecutor Monroe spoke with fire. "3 people are dead. 2 of them, children. This wasn't passion. This was vengeance. And no amount of past trauma justifies murder." Defense tried to soften the blow. "Julia was a broken woman. She lost control. She needs help, not death." Michael made a mistake. Not premeditation. Panic. There's a difference. The jury deliberated for 8 hours. Julia Denvers, guilty on all counts, first-degree murder. Michael Grayson, guilty of involuntary manslaughter. Sentencing was swift. Julia, life in prison without parole. Michael, 15 years in federal prison. As Julia was led away, she looked back once. At Tommy. He didn't meet her eyes. Warren watched from the gallery, arms folded. Justice had come. But it didn't feel victorious. Too many graves. Too many ghosts. Autumn came quietly to Charleston. The leaves, a palette of fire, danced in the wind outside the small chapel where 4 urns sat atop a black velvet-covered table. Kenny, Melinda, Lily, and Toby Denvers. The family that never got to finish their story. Only a handful of people attended the private memorial. No flowers, no press, no reporters. Just silence, and those who still carried pieces of the wreckage in their hearts. Tommy Denvers stood beside the table. He hadn't shaved in weeks. His once proud posture bent slightly, but not from age, from grief, from guilt, from years stolen and lives lost. Detective Warren Beck walked up to him, holding a folded envelope. Tommy glanced at it. "What's that?" Warren looked at the urns. "Closure. Julia Denvers, confirmed perpetrator of 3 murders, convicted and sentenced to life without parole. Michael Grayson, admitted to fatally shooting Kenny Denvers, convicted of involuntary manslaughter. Thomas "Tommy" Denvers was wrongfully imprisoned for the murder of a convenience store owner in 2010. Investigation later revealed his brother, Kenneth "Kenny" Denvers, was the true culprit. Kenny's testimony and false evidence led to Tommy's conviction. During Tommy's incarceration, Kenny married Tommy's wife, Melinda, and raised Tommy's children as his own. After his release in 2024, based on new DNA evidence and a confession from Michael Grayson, Tommy confronted Kenny. Within hours, Kenny was shot and killed by Michael during a heated confrontation. Shortly after, Julia Denvers entered the home and murdered Melinda, Lily, and Toby Denvers. DNA exonerating Tommy from the original 2010 crime. Forensic evidence linking Michael to Kenny's shooting. Surveillance and witness testimony placing Julia at the scene of the other murders. Cell phone video recovered from Lily's school iPad showing Julia yelling before gunshots rang out. Conclusion: the Denver's massacre was a tragic domino effect. One lie triggered a series of events that destroyed an entire family. Tommy folded the report quietly and slipped it into his coat pocket. "Doesn't feel like enough," he whispered. Warren nodded. "It never does." They both stared at the urns. Tommy wiped a tear. "I went to jail for Kenny's crime, and still, I walk out and somehow I'm the only one left." "You're not the same man, Tommy," Warren said. "You got dealt the worst kind of hand, but you didn't pull any trigger. That matters." Tommy didn't answer right away. Instead, he turned toward the playground across the street. Children laughed, ran, lived. "Sometimes," he said softly, "I wish I had pulled it." 1 year later, Tommy bought a small home near Folly Beach. Simple, quiet. He spent most days working at a veterans outreach center, helping men who felt forgotten. He kept no photos of his family, just a locket with Lily and Toby's names etched inside. Every Sunday, he visited the cemetery where a single stone now stood. The Denver's family forgiveness doesn't undo pain, but it sets the soul free. He stood there one bright morning, the sea breeze tugging at his jacket, when Warren pulled up beside him. "You heard about Julia?" the detective asked. Tommy shook his head. "She took her own life last night in prison. Left a note." Tommy said nothing. Warren handed him a copy of the letter. "To Tommy, I ruined everything. I didn't know how to stop. I blamed you. I blamed everyone. But in the end, it was me. I'm sorry for what I did to your family. If I could go back, I would scream instead of shoot. Tell them I love them, even if I didn't deserve them." Julia. Tommy folded it slowly. He didn't cry. "Now it's just me," he murmured. "No," Warren said, patting his shoulder. "It's you. And the truth. That's something. Not every case ends with peace. Some just end. I've seen monsters, but I've also seen good people twisted by pain into something unrecognizable. The Denver's case taught me that sometimes justice doesn't look like balance. It looks like survival. And for those who survive, the real sentence is learning how to live with the scars.